Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Claire, episode 104. Baby. I thought it was worth a shot. Are you going to join me someday?
Maybe.
When you're in the mood?
Maybe.
Okay. I'll remain hopeful, guys.
Okay.
We'll bring him out of his shell eventually. Okay, so this episode is actually, today's Wednesday. We got back on Monday, so 2 days ago from Los Angeles, and there was a lot going on. And so, yes, of course, later in the episode, I do have a topic or two to dive into in regards to some coaching stuff. And this is, anyway, before we go there, the majority of what I want to spend this episode on is actually just like recapping everything that happened. Because it was a lot. So, do you want to begin at the very beginning?
Sure. Oh, me.
This is your yeah, okay. So, I'll just ask questions. And what you guys know the drill. Once we get him talking, he'll go. So, let's see. Right before we left, I did Friday morning at like 6:30 a.m. I did the CrossFit Open workout 25.2. It had bar muscle ups in it. I haven't been doing those in the past couple of years, and I've been working on my skill for that past couple of months with not doing any attempts at them whatsoever, because when I did them a few years ago regularly, I was not moving well. And so now that I've returned to the practice, I'm just doing drills to build skill so that whenever I come back to that movement, that I actually move in a more technically proficient way. And so anyway, they came up in the open, and the open is a time where you try to do workouts as prescribed. So either way, I just chose to go ahead and go for it given the context, because this is something that you get a worldwide ranking in every year that you participate. And this is my 8th logged year, my 9th year doing it, but my 8th logged year doing it. And I love to see where I stack up year over year. So anyway, did that on Friday morning at 6:30 a.m. Then had an event, the Austin for America event, which it was just a really cool opportunity. I feel like I was able, I talked about it on the episodes for weeks leading up to it. And it was a broad range of topics, really cool characters involved, like the people that were there. It was very worth being a part of. And then I walked away from the experience really grateful for it and feeling like I was proud of the energy that I showed up with, but I wished that I would have focused my energy during my moment on a slightly different point in regards to health. So it was just a nice opportunity. Like, that's part of the deal with trying to do things that are different, is sometimes you get to feel like you nail it, and sometimes you feel like you should have, could have done better, and that's okay. And so that was an opportunity where I'm so grateful for it, net positive for sure. And also I'm like, you know what, next time I'd like to be more prepared for the audience I'm directly speaking to, and just some different details that is an opportunity for me to grow. So anyway, and then we flew to LA. Mm-hmm. So we arrive in LA late at night. We get some groceries delivered, whatever. The next morning, the first event occurs, and it is "You're up, bud."
Yeah. So I just did a sumo wrestling event for fun. It was on a Japanese TV show, and they had selected me as the main character per se of the challengers that were going against him. And can't really talk about what all happened because
it's TV.
Japanese television, but essentially, I almost won. I threw him out of bounds, but my hand had touched the ground before his body landed, so I actually initiated throwing him, and I threw him, but my hand touched the ground as we were both falling, and it touched before his body landed on the ground, so therefore I lost, but I almost won. So, I don't know, I felt pretty good about it, being like 60 pounds lighter than him and having no experience in sumo wrestling whatsoever. But it was a cool experience getting to practice being in front of the camera. That's what I found to be the most applicable to my skill set and building it. Getting to show a little bit of my personality on camera to thousands, if not maybe millions of people that I don't even know in Japan. So that'll be cool to see when that airs. And then after that, we lifted with...
Okay, wait, hold on. Sorry. He pretty much covered it, but this is a massive TV. This is where he'll just be humble, and I'll just tell you guys my perspective. This is a massive TV show in Japan, and so apparently it's very like you said, potentially millions. Anyway, apparently it's huge, and I got to watch a few other opponents go, and Jimmy really did it was wild to watch because other individuals, it was almost like when you put two people in those inflatable balls and then you make them run at each other, and one person, it doesn't work out so well. That's how I felt like it kind of looked for the other opponents. Meanwhile, I think that you guys went at it for about 75 seconds. So over a minute. And there were a couple times he had you getting close to out of bounds and then you circled back, and it was just actually so cool to watch. And that was my first time going to the gym Barbell Brigade, which of course in the powerlifting world is very well known. And everyone there was so kind, so welcoming. You've been there many times, but that was my first time. And I really appreciated how the culture was awesome. Couldn't recommend it more. If you want to ever go in Los Angeles to a barbell specific, it is very barbell specific. They have some isolation exercise machines and they have a rig. And so they've got, but either way, vibes on point, community, super nice. And then this event was just so fun.
Yeah, I'd probably say it might be my favorite gym in the country that I've been to in regards to atmosphere and community, everything. Every single time I go to LA, I used to go to LA quite a bit when I was in Arizona because it was close by, and Barbell Brigade in particular, every single time I go there, even though I still live 6 hours away, always felt like home. And going back there this last time felt basically just going back home, specifically to Barbell Brigade, not LA. But yeah, everybody there was super friendly and super welcoming to the gym, very supportive. Bart and Gio, the two people that created Barbell Brigade, they don't live in Los Angeles anymore. They live in Las Vegas, but they're essentially the heads of why that culture is so good there. And the manager, Brian Nadeem, that was associated with Barbell Brigade for a long time. If you follow their YouTube channel in any capacity over the last 10 years, you know pretty much what I'm talking about. They were very, very big in the powerlifting scene from basically when I was entering college up until, pretty much right now. So they don't do as much clothing and supplements anymore. So they don't have that side of Barbell Brigade, but they still have the gym. And yeah, it's just overall a really cool place to go back to. There's a lot of really fancy gyms with a lot of fancy machines, but even though Barbell Brigade doesn't have all that, I still would probably prefer Barbell Brigade over some of the other gyms in California personally.
Love it. Okay, now go ahead.
And then we met up with a couple of my friends that are pretty big on social media. One of them by the name of Tristyn, another by the name of Nayga. Nyle's Filipino, Tristyn's half Chinese, half Canadian, I believe. And yeah, we just worked out at the Young LA gym, which is a private gym only for their athletes and select people. So we got to work out there, which was cool. And just getting to meet Tristyn for the first time after following him on social media, or following each other on social media for a while, was cool. He's been a big name in the lifting space and the bodybuilding world for about 7 or so years, since he was 15. Now he's only 22, but he's been around for a long time. Nyle kind of the same. So it was just a cool little workout that we got to do together. Yeah, and that was Saturday, and then Sunday we...
Oh. I got to share my perspective on these things too. And you're forgetting a thing that I have to share too about Saturday. It was cool going to that facility. I don't know that I have much more to add to it other than it was really nice. It was very spacious. I think we're always in different gym facilities, at least 3 per week, each one of us, I feel, if not typically more than that. So a lot of different facilities. Very grateful for the ability to do that. That is so cool. And one of the things I loved about the way they had this set up was that there was, at least one variation of each exercise machine available. But there was a lot of, with the square footage that they had, which was a decent amount, the space between the machines provided so that way, I just liked it. It wasn't so crammed in. Sometimes you can feel like you have to scoot around one another. And so, you got to make do with what you've got for sure. But I think that was one of the things I was like, man, this is so nice. The way that they've spaced the machines out. Maybe I'm too far into the weeds of this sort of thing. But anyway, and it was really nice to meet them. I really enjoyed their whole cruise, including Tristyn's brother. Everybody was really welcoming, and I appreciated that. Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing you're not touching on before we go to Sunday, which I have to mention, is just that we went to dinner in Santa Monica.
Well, that was after, though.
After
the lifting. It was.
Yeah.
I didn't mention it because I.
Right.
Because I was.
But you were going to move on to Sunday.
Okay.
Right?
I guess so. Yeah.
I think so.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, all I was going to say is that we went to dinner at Sushi Roku in Santa Monica on the beach. And it was so good. And the desserts were banging. You got these churros and Matt got s'mores. And the s'mores situation had like matcha chocolate and it had this little, like they like had a campfire thing on the plate for you to burn all of it. And then the graham cracker was actually just like this dusting all over the bottom of the plate. And then they had these different sauces. And the sushi itself was also really good. So we went to that dinner and it was really enjoyable. Were you going to say something about that? No. Okay. Would you like to go to Sunday now?
Sure.
Okay.
Sunday we went to a gym and we hit legs. Well, we did squats, and then after that we did overhead squats, and then we left. But that was good. And then we did CT Fletcher's podcast. So that went really well. Got to talk about a lot of nice things that have happened over the last 8 or so years between he and I. So I'm excited for that podcast to come out. Mm-hmm. Definitely one of the cooler ones I think I've been a part of, for sure, just because it's kind of a full circle moment for myself. Mm-hmm. And then we did a...
Oh, okay. No, hold on. Are you moving on to the next thing?
You asked me to tell him.
No, but I got to break this stuff down.
So then just you tell him.
Okay, well, but no, I want to hear. Okay, so maybe I should. Guys, we've really planned this. I planned it out. He's just along for the journey. I don't
like talking about myself. Like,
yeah.
Unprompted.
I know, but okay, so I do have some questions. This is where I just have to slow you down about it because each one of these things is actually really cool. The one gen gym that we went to did the squatting. You squatted 442 pounds for 2 reps, which for post-surgery is a PR. Post-surgery. Went really well. Yeah. And then we played around with the overhead squats, and it was so fun. I have to tell you this. I was talking to Connor over at Bartend yesterday, and we were both just laughing at the reality that, like, he was like, you literally need to log his progression because he's going to move so fast with this. And so we talked on the last episode about the overhead squat and how you're incorporating it and what, you know, all these details of it, which if you didn't watch that episode, I would encourage you to go look at it. And then we talk about that and all the like benefits of an overhead squat and how high level it is, but how you can regress it down. And it's just so cool. So to see you working it in anyway, that's all there. But the week prior, you did like 100 pounds and that was a PR for that movement. And then when you and I were going back and forth in our like challenge, you worked up to 166 pounds and then you just like chose to stop because he's so much better at progressing. So like choosing to stop and let himself build instead of just sending it to where he fails. Because of course, like at the 166, like you were not failure. I don't know how much further you could have taken it, but you just were like, that's a good size jump. We'll come back to this thing next week.
I'd probably say bearing balance, probably 185 to 200, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Like if I was able to stay balanced during the descent, which is the hardest part of it, then I could stand back up with it. So it'd just be a matter of can I balance my way down or not, in which case I could have done more weight for sure.
Yeah. Ooh, and then let me ask, so you push pressed every single rep from behind the neck. Have you ever messed around with push jerk or split jerk?
No.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
I don't really care to, personally.
Well, just if we want to get a sufficient, like at some point to get, like say that, because Connor and I are both like, you could do 315. Like you may want to incorporate the jerk at some point. I don't know. We could play with it.
Maybe.
Food for thought. Anyway.
Get my squat higher than it is now before that happens.
Well, I think it's in there for sure. Yeah. And then the CT Fletcher podcast. For me, what was the production was wonderful. It was so cool to meet CT. A cool thing for me, like I actually was watching videos with CT when I was in high school. So I've never met him, but I remember, I command you to grow and all of that on YouTube. And it was because I was like watching videos of Dana and Bailey, and then her husband, Rob Bailey, was hanging out with CT, and I think that's how I found him. And I just loved his dynamic in the gym. And this is well before, since I didn't grow up playing sports, this is well before I got myself into a gym. But this is when my curiosity for like strong women, I started to find some of them online and be like, what is that? And it was so attractive to me. And so that's what kind of like started out my curiosity about gym culture, I guess. And that's how I found him. So anyway, it was a cool moment for me to get to meet someone who is just an absolute legend. But then obviously to hear more about your journey with him. And I know he's been a very pivotal role. He was the first big guy to like find you and believe in you, and has been a major connector for you. And it was cool. You'll hear in the episode, of course, that's an at-length episode, but I love that he introed it with like thanking you for the reciprocal relationship. Like that was so special. So anyway. Okay, now you can keep going.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very cool all around. Yeah, CT has done a lot for me. A lot. Most people don't even know about it. So that's why on the episode I even mentioned I'm glad that it gave me some space to talk about what I've seen about CT behind the scenes, because, yeah, like she said, he was the first major legend per se that I've ever crossed paths with, to ever give me the time of day, to ever believe in me, to ever, push me towards something bigger. After that, then came Mark Bell and Flex Lewis and Goldberg and, people like that, and a bunch of other people that are off the top of my head. But CT was the start of all that, and his events were the start of all that. And that's why to this day, I still prioritize to try to go every single year to his events. I couldn't go this last year, but definitely next year should not be a problem at all whatsoever. Just any way I can support him is something I try to jump on right away, just because what he's done for my life, basically making dreams come true, is something that I can never quantify as far as what I owe this individual. I just want to be able to show up for him at any given point that I can, just because, never want to take time for granted. And with somebody like him, you can never really get enough quality time with that. And that's why it was cool to actually sit down and talk with him for like an hour, because I've had, one or two sit down talks in person. Everything has been a little bit shorter, a little bit more brief on Instagram, over the phone, because usually I see him at big events like expos or big lifting events, or, he'll come to my event, but I'm focused and I don't have too much time to talk, that type of thing. So, it's cool to actually have a sit down talk with him, and just get to dive into things we've never really spoke about before.
Could you, this is on the fly, so it doesn't have to be the only thing, but like, what is one thing that you feel like walking away from that opportunity to be on his podcast? Like, what do you walk away from that being most appreciative of in the experience? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, there's a point at the end of the podcast where the other host, Michael, had just asked if I ever stopped to think about how blessed I am to be in situations that I am now, to know the people that I am now, that I know now, and to be effectively in that seat talking to them. Mm-hmm. And I told him that I normally don't take the time to stop and appreciate those things, but I also said that, reflecting back on a lot of the people that I've gotten to meet and a lot of the things I've gotten to do, it is a very unique journey that I've had to get to where I am. And I just think back to being in high school, or being just out of high school, entering college, starting powerlifting for the first time, and seeing a lot of these big names. And now pretty much everybody that I watched at that time are actual friends, like contacts in my phone that I can contact and talk to and ask for advice or whatever. So I think the coolest point for me was realizing that, as cool as it is to have a full circle moment like that, be as convicted in the position to understand that I deserve to be there, and I want to be on these people's level, and I'm fully capable of doing so, and more opportunities like this will continue to happen for me, and it should be more and more normal to me. As much as it is a cool opportunity, I felt very calm and collected in that environment, whereas if you put me in that same seat maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, it would have been a much more nerve-wracking experience for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it.
Thanks.
Because I see the day-to-day grind. And I think that like like I know that you belong in all of those spaces too. And I see, and I've only been around for the last not even couple of years, not even yet, almost, but not yet. Anyway, the reason you're in those rooms, the reason you're in those situations, the reasons these people want to work out with you or have you on their podcast or anything is because of the resilience, the discipline, you show up whether you feel like it or not, the conviction with your goals that you're just just unrelenting. I don't know, there's a lot, but I look at those things because one of the interesting things was like when we were at the Young LA gym, there was a group of people and one of the individuals didn't really know anything about you and continued to ask more questions and more questions and more questions to me about you. And I loved watching the light bulbs turn on, and it's just like, I remember that experience for myself, of like meeting you. Yeah, you're a jacked guy for sure. And that takes hard work. So that gets attention. But then being like, and he's doing what? And it was just really cool to watch someone who has no need to be curious about you at all, just gain that curiosity over the course of observing you in this setting and being like, and they were so interested. And I think that's gonna be exciting to watch continue to come to fruition, knowing that you have beautiful intentions behind it, knowing that like, it's like, I want to be a superhero to millions of kids. All of this is driving towards superhero to millions of kids, anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah. What happened next?
Then we did like a wrestling collaboration where I wrestled this guy that has people challenge him for $1,000 to take him down, and I lost, as I expected to, but I lost. But they posted the video yesterday, and it's doing pretty well, and it's got some new eyes on me, so it's opened up some new networking opportunities, so that's all cool. So I'm hoping to come back a little bit more confident in my leg. Not to necessarily win, but just to put a more accurate showing up of what I used to actually be as a wrestler a couple years ago before the two big knee injuries kind of limited me physically, but honestly, more so limited me mentally more than anything, Both instances were very hard physically, the injuries, but mentally, the toll it's taken is carried on much farther past what rehab time took. And I think that's not something that I've talked about a whole lot, or even most people think about when, they start talking about my knee injuries is just, oh yeah, you're looking better now and everything. And it is, I am, and I'm performing better and I'm able to do things, but the mental toll is still something that I fight every single day, or something that is in the back of my head or in the front of my head more often than not every single day in regards to what I do, how I step, what decisions I make, everything. It's a thing that I'm basing a lot of decisions day to day around. And so that type of mental toll is a lot because I know what's on the other side of that, that what if that happens. And so for me doing that, it was a risk 100%, but I tried to be as calculated as I could with it. Even still, things can happen. So in result, it kind of forced me to wrestle very protective over this given leg. So I was doing a lot more to protect this leg than I was to actually take him down, acknowledging that, well, the video is going to get posted and it should be somewhat beneficial regardless. So if I just protect my leg and come out on the other side, it should be a good deal. So in result, again, I almost took him down. Like I was very close to, similar to the Sumo instance.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just did not have the confidence or mental belief in my knee to be able to be a little bit more offensive and wrestle how I used to wrestle before the 2 knee injuries. So, maybe I can continue to strengthen this up and then wrestle him again and have a better outcome. But regardless, it's not a huge. I don't want to say it's not a huge deal because it's a big deal to me, but it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of what I'd rather accomplish in the meantime. So.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of the reason I'm looking at my phone because I want to read off. So watching this go down, one, I was filming it and my heart rate, I was shaking. Like I was so, thank goodness that phones and cameras have stabilizers in them today because I was like, as they progressed, I mean, it was like as soon as there was a pin, right? He took you down. A takedown. Sorry, I'm not from the wrestling one. As soon as there was a takedown, they're right back up. Slap hands right back into it. Like there was zero rest. There was zero opportunity to reflect and see, because of course what you saw happen round over round was a similar situation. And so there wasn't time to think, and this is my perspective. Obviously you were the one actually doing it. But it was really intense. And it's so cool because in these types of sports, like there's so much mutual respect between the two of you for taking on this challenge and not knowing who's going to come out the victor. And the fear that, I mean, I haven't spoken to him. I don't know him, but that he probably has to, looking at you, like you're probably like, oh shoot, and then knowing your accolades and then knowing the fear that you had to overcome to be willing to do that, knowing that you haven't had the opportunity to train that discipline in quite some time. And although when you were in a regimen with it, you had to completely change your game. You had to change your lead leg. There were all these different things that had to happen. What it makes me think of is because I also got to observe the disappointment afterwards, and I think that's a very special part of the journey. You could have been fearful and chosen not to take on the challenge. And I'm not saying that would have been the wrong choice, but you chose to face the fear on that day and say, I don't want to live fearful. I want to be bold, And so yet again, I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong or whatever, but I do want to read, and you've heard it before, but it's so powerful and it makes me think of the man in the arena. And so it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes out short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And that's just what that made me think of, because on that day you had to accept defeat. But to me, you still walk away a victor, because we don't know what the full story is. And at least you didn't let fear keep you back.
Yeah. I didn't let...
Maybe you did, but you didn't.
I didn't let fear keep me back necessarily, but I don't think that I necessarily overcame my fear.
Mm-hmm.
I think I worked within the parameters of my fear, which is my own call out of myself. So it's a baby step, I guess you could say, if we're going to try to look at this positively. It's like, well, I was really contemplating the night before and you were there. I'm like, should I just back out of doing this? Just because with wrestling and my progression and that and everything and some opportunities coming up, if I hurt myself like I did again, I don't even know what that would be like personally. And that's having gone through this twice. I don't even know what the third one would be like. So, with that said, I'm deathly afraid of re-injuring myself and missing out on more opportunities and, watching time go by and stuff like that. So I was very much contemplating not doing it for sure. But, I had made the plans with them initially. So I was like, I'm at the very least just going to lean on the fact that I need to be a man of my word and stick to it. So that's basically what made me make the decision. It took a while, but it's like, even though I'm not sure if I want to do this, like I already kind of committed to it. So let's just do it. And so then going into it, I'm like, all right, I committed to this. I'm here. I have to go through with it. So let's just make sure that nothing happens to this. That's basically what I was thinking in my head as it was going on. But I don't know if I overcame the fear because the fear still altered how I moved. Mm-hmm. And so to me, overcoming that fear is being able to move without that as a crutch in my mind. So that's going to be my next challenge that I won't necessarily force because I don't need to be wrestling all the time like I used to, but I would like to overcome that at some point so I could actually like do a match like that. That's really not a huge deal, but not give an inaccurate representation of myself when I know and my close friends to me know that I'm just much better than even what I showed there, even though everybody in the comments is like, oh, he's your best match so far. He's your best match. He's the best match. I'm like, well, that was literally like 10% of what I'm capable of, but I'll take it. So anyways, this is your show, not mine.
Yeah, but this one's largely about you. There's way too much cool stuff that happened that was your stuff that this is what this one is supposed to be. Yeah. Before you took on the sumo wrestler and that wrestler and you told me you were going to do these things, it was like you make calculated risks and there's risk in life, And so you at least looked the fear directly in the eyes. And did you entirely overcome it? No. But you didn't look the other way. And I just trust that you'll make the best decision for you. And then we'll go with that. And then we'll navigate what comes as a result of it. And in this case, on this day, it was you weren't victorious ultimately, but you did come out safe and you looked the fear in the eye.
Yeah.
After that, we went to the AEW show.
Mm-hmm.
Anything about that?
I thought I had the opportunity to watch the matches and learn some stuff. And then my friend Bobby was down on the floor because he hangs out with the big boys. So he invited us down to the floor and he got to meet Claire. So that was cool. Bobby is one of my former jiu-jitsu students and his kids are also former jiu-jitsu students of mine. I used to train them one-on-one for a long time and they ironically moved to Austin because Bob's secretly working for somebody that I don't know if I'm even allowed to say it or not.
I don't know how secretly it is, but I have no idea.
I don't know if I'm even allowed to say what it is or not. But yeah, so now he lives in Austin and he got to meet Claire and that was cool. And Bobby has always been a really cool friend to me and somebody that I've actually learned a lot from the standpoint of like just how to be a good dad and also like from business. He's a really, really good businessman. So yeah, it was cool just to see him randomly and he was happy to see us and meet Claire and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun.
He was so funny.
Yeah.
My takeaway was that he was a riot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. And then we ate more sushi and then we came home.
Yep. Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, let's go into real quick so this weekend you have a match in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a match in Arizona.
Yep. So he has another match, so he'll be going back to that. And then this is going to be interesting this weekend for me. So the final week of the CrossFit Open is this week. And so I told you that I did that Friday 6:30 a.m. test of 25.2 and I've posted about it, but either way, I was disappointed in my score. I have to accept the reality that I haven't been training that. So the way that the workout worked is it progressed in load on a thruster. You had some double unders in there and then a progressing gymnastics movement on the rig. So it was pull-ups and then chest to bar pull-ups and then bar muscle ups each round. So thankfully I've gotten a lot stronger. The thruster was certainly a lot easier this year than it was because it was a repeat workout. We did the same workout 3 years ago. And the whole rest of the workout felt so much better. The pull-ups, the chest to bar, I'm stronger. But then the bar muscle up is a skill that I've just outright not been doing, because when I learned it a few years ago, I had anyway, you get the point. But so I walked away disappointed with my score, and I got 7 of the muscle ups before the time cap. So then I came back, we flew back Monday midday, and I basically just went straight to the gym for a last minute retest. And one of our level 3 coaches, stuck around, shout out Ron, and was like, yeah, cause I was like, I think I'm going to shove myself in the corner and retest. I was just really dissatisfied with my performance. I wanted to do better. And so Ron was like, oh, you're going to do it? Okay, yeah. And so he stuck around and judged me, and that was very kind of him to do. And I got 5 more reps. And so I got a much better score. So I'm currently sitting in 91st percentile, and I have very high hopes for this coming week, which gets announced tomorrow, and then you'll have a few days to accomplish it. But I have very high hopes to perform well on this last one and see if I can nudge that up some, that overall percentile ranking. So that probably means that Friday night, I'll likely, at some point Friday, probably Friday evening, I will likely test that workout because I have the High Rocks race in Houston on Saturday. And I care more about my performance in the CrossFit Open. And so therefore I want to test that before I get beat up from that race, because the race will be a hard effort and so will the Open. And so it's like, okay, well, my race is going to be harder. As a result, typically I would rest and do a little primer in the couple of days prior to a race and be recovered and refreshed and ready to go. But that's not going to happen this time. Instead, I'm in a full tilt-a-whirl, whatever this workout is, on Friday, and then turn right around and give a really hard effort in a High Rocks race. And this will be my 8th or 9th race, and I've done all of them in this women's pro division, so I'll stick in that, with the exception of one I did doubles. But anyway, it's going to be a fun weekend of fitness for me, a fun weekend of fitness tests. Oh, yeah. So there's that coming up. And I just feel so grateful to have energy to give to these things. So anyway, we are really going really far on time. I think that I really wanted to focus on the LA recap, and hopefully we've gotten a lot out of this. It's just been fun to encapsulate all that took place because a lot happened really fast, a lot of really cool moments. I think let's just go to gratitudes. Okay. Let's just leave it there. All right. Okay. So my gratitudes, can I start?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you started last week. Real switch up.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I mentioned was my gratitude right now. I got sent a video yesterday of a woman's journey with getting sick from mold. And she had this misdiagnosis of MS and all sorts of it got really gnarly for this woman. And it was shared with me from a previous client of mine that was like, this makes me think of you, because it was ultimately from toxic mold. So they thought she had lesions. And like I said, she was misdiagnosed with MS, and it was bad news bears. And then she went to some different doctors, did some more tests, some functional something doctors. And they discovered that there was a ton of inflammation in her brain apparently. And she was going handicapped. And, so then, of course, they found out that she had all of these toxins from mold in her system. And so she's been on a healing journey, and then it showed her journey throughout that. And it's so cool because now she's jacked and shredded and living her best life and married and fully functional. Whereas prior to that, as she was progressively getting more ill, physically debilitated. So crazy. Anyway, all of that to say that as I've been experiencing more of what I was used to for so many years of training used to excite me. I used to love to train. And then in the last couple of years, it became this is something I do because prioritizing my health is a priority to me, but this is getting more challenging. And as I was getting sicker and sicker from the mold in such a slowly progressive way, it was very hard in the day-to-day to realize, of course, I didn't know why I was getting sick, and I didn't know why my joints were hurting, and I didn't know why I had hives, and I was so inflamed and gaining weight and blah, 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 right? All this, the cognitive stuff, we've talked about it plenty, and there's another episode that goes into more length about that. But the gratitude is I have zeal for training again. Like I look forward to training. I have energy to give to it, as opposed to this is just something that I have to do. It's not gonna be fun. I'm really tired, whatever. So grateful for energy to give to it, because health truly is wealth. And we know that, but I just feel this perspective shift in mine of like, you just knew what it was like to really not have access to it in a unique way. And as you're regaining it, like, go get it, girl. So that's one gratitude. I'll move faster on my next ones. My other gratitude, of course, is going to be the experience in LA with you, getting to observe you do all those different things. And I'm just so grateful that you are so dedicated to your goals, and it is so inspiring to me. And that you simultaneously also manage to prioritize caring for our relationship. So it's kind of a twofold. I'm just grateful for all of that with you. And then my third gratitude today will be good literature. I really enjoy reading good literature. I'm so grateful that people write things that change the way that you show up in the world.
I'm grateful for the coaches and owners at Iron Forge, Rob, Esther, RJ. I had my last wrestling class that I taught this past Monday, and everybody there, including the people that I teach, the students, the MMA fighters, were all super congratulatory as to why the reason was that I'm not teaching there for now. But also RJ, Rob, and Esther were super happy for me, but also like we're very thankful for the time I did spend there, and they all took a picture with me afterwards. I just felt very valued, and that's something that's really big for me. Where I don't like being in situations where I don't feel like my value is being acknowledged, and I would say that at Iron Forge they've done an amazing job of acknowledging my value. Rob, Esther, RJ, Canute. But the guys that within the MMA team there, they've all made me feel very welcome, and that's something I'm very grateful for my time there. So I wanted to say I'm grateful for them. Grateful for the opportunity to work with a former WWE superstar this weekend. I'm sure I'm going to be able to learn a lot going to a seminar that he's holding earlier that day. So it's going to be a big little notch of wisdom in my wrestling journey that I'll be able to acquire this weekend. Yeah. And then I'm grateful for Claire and Matt for dedicating their weekend to support me. Of course, Matt partially is his job, but also there's a lot of that where, he's just supporting me as a friend and she's supporting me as a fiance. And it's really cool to be able to do these things in front of them and feel like I have my own support section, cheering section along these different trips that aren't necessarily required for anyone else to be there, but it's cool to have people there to enjoy those moments with. So
I love it. Shout out Matt. Matt was a part of the whole journey. We didn't even talk about him that much, but he be doing the most. So shout out Matt. Okay. We run coaching businesses. You probably already know that, but if you didn't, now you do. And so if you are interested in either just simply doing programming, getting your nutrition from us, or you want to work with us in a one-on-one capacity, all of that stuff will be in the description below. Jimmy has his, I've got mine. Pick your flavor if you're feeling it. And let's get jacked and let's get thriving. And other than that, we just hope that you choose to have a beautiful day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.